News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with DarkOakMedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and may I be the first to say a happy World Octopus Day.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, man. I knew there was a reason Allan was dressed this way.
The Octopus
World
cosplay.
Octopus Day. What's that, Max? That's very interesting.
I mean, it just, as the title says, World Octopus Day. Can you get any simpler?
I mean, okay. Well, we know how Allan's going to celebrate this one, so octopus is now on the menu.
There will be tentacles.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, you can call if you want to weigh in and tell us how you're celebrating World Octopus Day. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And I would say it behooves you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out the action over there. You should join the page and follow what's going on. I've already posted the must-have item of the week. I already posted a link for what we're going to be talking about later today in Great Moments in Building History. Mm-hmm. A petty rival. I'm calling it petty.
It was.
Petty.
That's a good word for it.
A petty rivalry that helped shape the New York skyline. Somehow we keep straying back to New York, Allan. I don't know, but...
well, a lot of stuff happened there, man. What do you want?
I mean, look at all the Marvel movies. Everything happens in New York.
Yeah, we're going to leave it alone. I'm not going to over-tease this one. But it was, I think it was definitely petty, and actually both men got their comeuppance in the end. Justice was served, I guess you could say. If time permits, Allan, there was a couple of battle wounds that I wanted to round out. You know, I'm really enjoying these battle wound segments, and I do think they're useful because we're not just saying, you know, this is the stupid thing we did. We're giving you advice on how to not do it yourself.
Please don't do this yourself.
Who knows how many lives we've saved in our battle wound segment. So.
If only we could save more lives by you guys not being on the air.
Well, you know, sorry, Max.
Oh, well. But that's okay, Max. I got one for you.
Allan.
Well, hang on a second. Let me dive into one thing with Max.
Okay.
Since it is World Octopus Day, do you know who Paul the Octopus is?
No, but go on.
You don't know who Paul the Octopus is? Well, Paul lived from January 2008 to October 2010, and he was the world's greatest predictor of who could win soccer matches.
Interesting.
You need to look him up. Look up Paul the Octopus, and he went to international fame by being able to pick who was going to win the World Cup Series.
Did he live in Vegas or something? Or
no, he was over in Europe. He was in a big aquarium over in Europe, and they would give him of 2 jars with the flags of who was playing and a crab in each jar. And whatever jar he opened first was his prediction. And he beat Vegas odds way too much. So all I got to say is, dude, you got to look up Paul the Octopus.
Happy World Octopus Day, ladies and gentlemen.
No kidding. Holy smoke. I didn't know we'd get this much mileage out of this, Allan. This is great. So we never got to your segment on the IKEA paradigm, which I do want to talk about. And then we have 2 science stories there, and they both basically involve water. Ocean batteries, and then pulling garbage out of water. You know, great inventions. That's what we need. We have. I might tell you about my kitchen remodel update because there was actually some breaking news on that. Ooh. We've got lots of other things, and as we say, we would love to hear from you. So you can get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline. Call or text at 901-683-0989. Well, Allan, to kick things off, we are going to go to a text. And this is going to be, I didn't prepare you for this, but this is going to be, if Allan isn't rubbing his hands together by the end of my reading of this text, I've failed. But, hey, guys, I'm growing concerned that squirrels are getting into our house. In a couple of our rooms, there is a unpleasant smell from time to time, and we also think we hear scratching in the walls. I have no idea where they can be getting in. Can you please advise us? Thanks. No name. I guess, you know, squirrels in your house is a little bit of an...
Is this an improvised Critter Wars?
You might have to have it ready, Max. Well, it's funny because I sympathize, dear listener, because, man, did I deal with squirrels, and I turned to my buddy Allan Gilbreth, and he did help. The good news is the battle can be won.
Yes.
But it's a battle.
Please, gentlemen, allow me.
Okay.
That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on. I just wanted to hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
Okay. Good for you, Max. All right. Well, Allan, this is a. Where do we start? Because I was gonna. Maybe I thought I could start because I had very similar.
Oh, by all means.
So, okay. Well, basically, if you've listened to our show for any length of time, you know that at one point I was in a heated battle with squirrels, and it went on a couple years.
You weren't doing well for a while.
No.
They were selling condos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that this, if it's like any other place in Memphis, there's probably trees. They're probably running around your roof. I don't know what kind of house this is. We have a Cape Cod house, and I will say this. The squirrels were getting in places you would not think anything could get in.
That is correct.
Basically, we had, before we had our new roof put on by J Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, we had some areas of the shingles that unless you just went up there and lifted it yourself, you would not know that those are loose enough for a squirrel to get under. They crawled under the flashing. They dug a hole. They got into our walls there. They got into the walls, Allan, by those, you know how we have these valleys that form on your roof. You have, two roof lines come together. They can sneak under there. But you identified it through the smell and these little black streaks that were going up and down. So, let's talk about this, sir, because maybe we can help this person.
Let's start talking about all the immediate giveaways.
Right.
Anything that passes from the exterior of the house to the interior of the house is automatically suspect.
What do you mean by that?
And I'm talking like your air conditioning unit.
Oh,
Go find your AC unit and see where the refrigerant, you've got a pipe that's going to pass through. You got to look at that gap really careful because
they don't have to have a big gap.
If it can get its head through there, and let's face it, they don't have really big heads.
No.
If the head fits, the rest of the critter can get through that hole. So what you're looking for is what we like to call the rub mark.
Ugh.
This is just where
all about
a
those
critter has to squeeze through and rub through there, and eventually they'll rub that area kind of smooth. If you have a lot of them, they leave a little oil behind as you kind of squeeze out their fur, and they'll leave little trails around the edge of it. And the other one
they're like little dark oily trails,
and
which I didn't expect from a squirrel. They look sort of clean.
They are very clean.
Okay,
but when you, like anything else, when you pet your cat, if you were to go back and have your fingertips analyzed, you would have little oils from the cat on your fingertips.
Okay,
so it takes a little traffic to build up the marks, but if you've got the marks, you have squirrel condos.
Right.
The other thing is go underneath your soffits and look carefully at every corner, every joint. Take a stick with you. Give it a little push. See if it lifts up.
Can I say something about
Absolutely.
the soffit? Because a lot of people, it's funny, the vulnerable areas, squirrels must have a gene in them that they're just natural architects or something, because they look at a soffit and they, a lot of soffits, that lower board is only maybe 1/4 of an inch thick.
Oh, yeah.
You would think it's a lot more hardy, but it isn't. And if there's any give, they can push it up. It's like a trap door. Then they get in, and you have no idea they're in there.
And once they figure out the mechanism of pushing their way in, they have no problem picking it up and coming back out.
Right.
Which is also the trick they love to do in roof overhangs, where the shingles hang over a little bit.
Yep.
Well, there's a little spot under there where you can push up on those. And if you think about it, a squirrel can get down in your gutter, push up on that little piece of roofing, and they can just tunnel a hole right through all of it.
Can I get on my soapbox, please, sir? If you've got, this listener didn't give us a whole lot of details, but if you've got that, I would say is probably one of the main things I learned. If you've got gutters, it doesn't look like, it looks like the gutters would keep everything out, but and sometimes people hang gutters too low. The other thing is when you hang a gutter, it has to have a slight pitch to it. So it might be perfectly fine over on the right side of the house, but as it's sloping downhill, it's making that gap bigger and bigger. And sometimes they don't trim the house out correctly. Sometimes that gap there's literally, you could lift up that shingle like Allan was saying, and you'll be able to look at the rafters inside your home. Well, boom, that's an entryway right there.
I just remember when I showed you that trick and the squirrel hole associated with it, and you were like, look, it's a highway.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Once
yes,
you
it
see
is.
it, but it's really insidious. You're like, how
Right.
Some pioneering squirrel had to be the first one to go in and try it.
As you said, they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
Gray squirrels are amazing. For those of you who are listening in Great Britain, we do terribly apologize for the Duke that introduced them to his garden because he thought they were cute, and now they've eaten half of your country. We didn't send them over voluntarily, but poor Great Britain had these.
I didn't know they brought them over there.
Had these delightfully polite red squirrels that stayed in their trees and left the humans alone. Bless their hearts, they discovered that gray squirrels don't mind living with you. They'll and of course, and you think your roof. Can you imagine what they could have done to a 300-year-old thatched roof?
I was going to say thatched roof would be open season. They can just burrow their way in.
Squirrel City. Another big one that you really got to look out for are seams around things like gables, picture windows, decks, especially upper decks.
Yeah.
And then your big one around your fireplace.
Yep. And actually they can, what we did is we have a fireplace cap, like a metal, like a scoop that goes over it. I wound up just going nuclear, and I wrapped it with like chicken wire and stuff, so nobody could, because they may get in the chimney and then there's a breach there, then they get in the wall. You just don't know.
And then they're greeted by the cat because you put the cat's litter box in there.
Well, that's one way to deter. Just keep in mind, they have nothing else better to do except try to find more comfortable accommodations. And humans make very comfortable accommodations.
Here's one other thing I will say. Don't walk around your house and what's the famous saying, when you assume, we know what happens when you assume things, and don't go, they can't get into that part of the wall because there's a piece of flashing there. That doesn't mean it. They may they may have figured out how to lift that flashing or how to climb around it or something.
Get a beverage and a chair, and if you got a little time, go park it in a part of your yard. Especially if you're hearing scratching in the wall someplace, go sit outside, give yourself about an hour or so, and just go sit down and observe. And sooner or later, one of them is going to come by. What you're really looking for at that point is a teenage squirrel. Because they haven't quite learned to be as crafty as mom and dad yet.
Oh, so they just follow.
They just kind of like, well, all right, I'm done digging in the yard. I'm going to go take a nap.
Right.
And you'll watch them climb your house, climb a tree, and they will climb things you will swear nothing could climb.
Well, I was going to pick another solution because, Allan, we just bought these really nifty security cameras for our house. The night vision feature is great. I mean, I was really impressed with the quality of video. So you could easily just take this and point it at the areas you're concerned about and just go check the tape the next morning. But since we've identified the problem, we should give out a few solutions. The first thing is there's really no here's what I would say. I know you could probably call companies to help you deal with this, but I don't think any company is going to care about the problem as much as you are. And so what I've mostly found in that situation was they're like, well, we can put up traps, we can do this, whatever. And I wasn't necessarily interested in killing the squirrels. I just wanted them gone from my house.
Get out of the house.
But really, you have to just be meticulous. And I would say do what Allan just said. Look for the look for those streaks and look and wherever that smell is coming from, go to the outside wall and you got to just do some detective work and lift shingles and find if there's a crack, seal it up.
And this is
the stickier the better. They don't like chewing through that stuff. And then there's another trick that if you have a hole that somehow they're just continually chewing through, we've done this thing. You take a really hard, like maybe Bondo or something, and you mix it with steel wool because they don't like to chew through steel wool. Ooh. So you kind of wad it up and you fill it up with, so there's ways to, and then of course we know the old cayenne pepper trick.
Yep.
Paint the outside of the area, if you're going to paint it, throw a little cayenne pepper in there. Because sometimes they don't care. They're just going to chew an entrance in. They're going to make an entrance.
The idea is now you have to deter that.
Right.
And keep in mind, you're up against a scent trail that says the Squirrel Hotel is this way.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a hotel chain that says they'll leave the light on for you.
Yeah.
Squirrels leave the hole open for you.
Right. Yeah.
So now other critters that you might see this time of year, of course, raccoons. Now, a raccoon, if you get one of those guys dealing with your house, you're going to see some damage.
Yeah.
They are not slick. They are not subtle. They are just rough.
Yeah, you may see chew marks on your garbage can.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know how this works. And, folks, if you've had any issues with squirrels, let us know as well.
Please.
Because we've dealt with it. This is just...
It is a perpetual battle in the Mid-South.
But now, real quick, let's shift gears a little. I do want to just mention this because I don't want to bore people with my kitchen remodel update. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because we're doing a few unusual treatments, and since we are, there may be people out there that are, these are less common treatments, I guess you could say. Well, what we put in last week was we put in half of our countertops, which we've always loved the look of butcher block.
Nice.
Now, but we don't like just the plain butcher block. I'm sorry, it's just not we want a little more flair, so we stained it, and we're really lucky because the first thing we did, I bought some stained samples, and one thing I would say is we probably use our butcher block differently than some people. I know there's some people they will literally put their vegetables on the counter and cut away or wash away. We're not doing that.
Right.
However,
you have cutting boards.
So they make food-safe stain.
Yes, they do.
They make food-safe oil that you put on there and everything, which we went ahead and did. But we were lucky because the food-safe stain, we bought a few different samples, and one of them was just really awesome. We put 2 coats of stain. So we didn't, because I was going to just get a stain that I liked, whether it was food-safe or not. I didn't care, Allan. So, but we stained it up really good. And then we started doing the oil, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, because this is something we're not familiar with at all. The countertop looks great. It looks really cool. It's very hardy. The color is beautiful. But this oil, you put it on, it's like butcher block oil. I went ahead and put it on really heavy, and they said ideally if you can let it soak overnight, that's the best way.
Yes.
So I put it on and wiped it off the next day. And honestly, and then my wife keeps coming back and putting little bits on there. But even now, we haven't added any oil in 3 or 4 days. But even after rubbing it down, there's still this little oily finish on my hands. When is that going to go away? That's the part that I'm not liking. I know it's food safe and it's not going to kill me or anything. But
no.
But what is that? So.
Well, all right, what you're doing is you're basically filling all of the little holes and gaps in the butcher board with the oil.
Well, I knew that. I mean, I know what it's doing. I've just never done, because I deal with polyurethane and I deal with
you're used to
even
something
waxes
that dries.
and stuff. Yeah, something that dries. I'm not used to this.
Well, this never completely dries.
Okay.
Now, what you can do is give it a good buffing.
Okay. What would you do for that?
Big handful of paper towels or a nice light cotton cloth, and just really give it a good rub down. And that will get all of the surface contact oil away from you.
Okay. Well, we've been doing that. We get these. My wife bought these really specific towel. I remember what they are, but she's got a stack of them because she's like very pretty. She's really excited about these. So even after rubbing down, and now I don't want to say it gives you it doesn't get real oily, but it does leave a little residue on your fingers.
You're putting them. You're probably a little too heavy on the oil still. You're still new parents.
I think this thing's going to take like 3 weeks to dry. Honestly,
yes,
it probably will. Right?
It is. Like I said, a good buff here and there, and about a month from now, you'll stop noticing any of it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my question was, can we put things on there? Because like we've got a couple bowls. We were going to actually move the microwave to this one counter. Can we do that yet?
After 48 hours, yeah, you're pretty good to go.
Okay. All right. Do you have a butcher block at your house?
Or
a cutting board?
I have several butcher blocks.
Okay.
Yes. So a lot of fun with those.
Yeah, but you gotta. I would say too. On the flip side, you gotta be careful what you clean it with because you don't want to dry out the wood or make it.
You don't want it too wet, too long, or you don't want it to split or anything like that. But ButcherBox is beautiful. Of course, it's sustainable.
Right.
Just absolutely lovely.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll probably take some pictures and stuff. But we were thinking once this is all said and done, we want to have a nice little dinner party, and we'll probably invite Allan because he can do the cooking. So. Is that proper etiquette to invite somebody over and make them do all the work?
It happens to me all the time. Don't worry about it.
Well, you don't want me to cook. It won't. I mean, my wife can do the cooking too. But anyway, hey, Allan. When we come back, though, I'm excited because science is. It seems like it's going to be. Seems like it's going to be very relevant, and it's positive. It's positive science, finally. So,
it is.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, that's what we get the minute we turn off the mics over here. Anyway, welcome back to I don't know what that meant. Anyway, I like that quote. That's what who's that guy, Max? It's one from Parks and Rec.
His name is Dennis Feinstein.
Dennis Feinstein, yeah. Great character. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the ever rascally Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out the action over there. The must-have item of the week has already been posted. We posted a really good video. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long, all about the story we're going to be discussing on great moments in building history in the second hour of our program. It's a rivalry, a petty rivalry, a really just, grow up, gentlemen type of
but a really expensive
a very
rivalry.
expensive rivalry that basically helped form the New York skyline. It's very, very interesting. So, and if you're just tuning in, earlier we were talking about squirrel prevention and some helpful tips. And one of the listeners is going through their own squirrel battle. And I got to believe there's a lot of Memphians. I mean, I wasn't alone in mine. But the good news, folks, is the battle can be won.
Oh, yes.
I just want to say one more thing about that, Allan. My one of my wife's friends is, I wasn't interested in killing the squirrels. I just want to make that, I just didn't want them in the house. Well, they had their own squirrel battle going on, and it was probably worse than ours. Their solution was to get these traps, catch the squirrels, and then go release them over at like Shelby Farms or something.
Okay.
I don't see that as a solution.
Well, they're not coming back.
Okay, they're not coming back, but their 20 cousins are all coming back. To me, that's like a revolving door. And now you're in now you have the job of relocating squirrels, and that doesn't sound like any fun. And it doesn't sound. I think the better option is to just keep them from coming in. Period. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't like that approach.
Again, when you start talking about the scent trails, the reason you would catch and relocate that particular squirrel is it's already learned where all the entrances and exits are, and it's giving tours.
Okay, so maybe a combination approach.
So, if you're going to have them relocated, of course, make sure it's to an appropriate area. Don't just go stick them in your neighbor's backyard. That's just tacky.
Yeah, that's lame. And they'll be back.
They'll be back. The biggest thing is, whichever approach you take, the idea is you still have to stop them.
Yeah.
If you leave the door open, if not that one, the next one, as you said, he's got 20 cousins, and they've all got maps.
Right. Yeah.
And they're going to get back in again.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in because in a minute, Allan, we've got a great science story that we're going to discuss. But before we get to that, I just want to close this out. Maybe this is a good closing discussion. I want to talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, because he was an integral part of my triumph over the Squirrels. So. Among other things. Okay,
you got a whole new roofing system up there.
I don't know that this is front and center on his promotion of Big M Roofing and Remodeling. But the truth is, your roof is probably the main area that they can get in. I mean, especially if you have an old roof and everything. And so, anyway, Jay Hill, once our new roof went in, it was over for the Squirrel. They packed up and moved somewhere else. So, but if you have any roofing issues, okay, 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau, Allan. GAF Master Elite accredited installers. 5 stars with Good Housekeeping. Jay says he's never gotten less than a 5-star review, which I actually believe. Everybody I've ever referred Jay to, he did our roof. We gave him a 5-star review.
I have indeed.
You have Brandon Olmsted. I've given his name out countless times, and they're all thankful, and they give his name out.
Yes.
So, but if you have any roofing issues, you need expertise. You need somebody who's licensed and insured. You need somebody who's going to stick around, and if you have any issues in the future, that will be able to help you out. But also the unique quality that Jay Hill has is he is a former insurance agent, which is critical because the roof is one of those areas of your home that it may qualify to have the replacement or at least the repairs covered by your homeowner's insurance.
Correct.
And that is not an easy thing to navigate. I mean,
no, this is a whole different language.
And you need an advocate. Really, it does come down to almost like he's serving the role of kind of like a lawyer. He's representing you. He's getting you all of the things you're entitled to, and he knows all the protocols. He knows who to call, and he makes the process actually really fun. Basically, when he showed up at our house, it was like, okay, this is done. Now start picking colors. We'll be here in 2 weeks to replace your roof. It's that fast. It just takes it takes a load off your mind. And if you don't qualify for a replacement, maybe you just need a new roof. Also, there's financing. The guy, he has 30 different lenders. So no matter what your credit score is, there's going to be a lender that you can qualify for, to get it replaced. And also, he loves unique remodeling projects because the two kind of go hand in hand, especially if the roof did a number on that back room and you have to, gut the room and make yourself
We have had some pretty good storms.
Right. So get in touch with our good buddy Jay Hill. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right. Allan, it's time to talk a little science.
Hail science!
And these are both, you sent me these, and these are both positive stories as far as I could tell, right?
So which way you want to go? You want to talk power or you want to talk trash?
Could we talk the power first?
Let's talk power first. All right. Well, reusable and renewable energy is, let's face it, as you and I have said many, many times, whether you like it or not, it's the future.
Yeah.
We got it. We got to figure this out. And
renewable in the sense of we're not my big thing is always like digging holes and pulling out things from the earth.
But that's a finite resource.
It's right. There's only so much oil we're going to have. There's only so much coal. So we want something like solar. Boom. If the sun runs out, we've got bigger problems anyway. You kind of need to be a little interstellar by then. Yeah.
All right. The problem we have always had historically is how to store energy.
Mm-hmm. That's the improvement that we're seeing. Battery power storage is what's improved a lot.
Well, if you think about it, coal is stored energy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, if you think about it, oil is stored energy.
Right.
It's just how we release the energy and then the aftermath of it. So here we go. We know that ocean motion is energy. Pretty much everything going on around us is energy. Wind is energy. Solar is energy. It's just how do you tap into it? And now what do you do with it?
Right.
Now, you and I are huge advocates of the upcoming house batteries.
Oh, sure.
Because several other companies are getting into this.
Yeah. Once they perfect that, once they can make it clean and efficient, that's the game changer right there, the house battery. Because then, folks, if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, the basic idea would be just probably like somewhere in the center of your home, you have this battery, probably 4 or 5 feet tall, maybe a few feet wide, something like that. And it's going to be, as it charges up, it could be charging up just by your use, or it could be charging up from solar or something. Once that thing's fully charged, you don't need the grid right then. You can
exactly
tap out of the grid for 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, just like you do with your laptop computer. And once the battery's charged, you unplug and you run off the battery. Well, what's that going to do to your utility bill? It's going to
you're kind of free to
go in half. It's going to maybe make it a third. You might, and if the power goes out, you've got this backup battery system. Okay. You may even get so efficient you don't need the grid.
That could also happen. Now, let's talk about water motion for a little bit. We have for hundreds of years used water motion, and I'll look at like a grinding wheel.
Didn't the Dutch start that?
Think like your
The mill.
quintessential European medieval with the grinding mill next to the stream with the big wheel turning around and all that.
Yep.
Well, folks, that was energy.
Sure.
If we think about it, that was just water power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we have hydroelectric dams and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Picture putting one of those on the bottom of the ocean.
Right. Yep.
Well, so this is kind of where we're headed.
Here's what I saw, because, Allan, it seems like there's a few groups getting involved in this. And so basically there was it's at the bottom of the ocean is where they store it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But so you don't have to look at it for one thing. It's not like an oil rig floating out on the ocean, that you got to see. But what was pretty cool, it almost looked like this big floating kind of raft thing. It was flexible, though, and every time a wave moved through it, it kind of activated like a little piston. It just sort of was a rolling, continual motion, and every crank of that wheel was generating electricity.
Absolutely.
And then it was storing. I'm like, okay, it seems very simple, but I feel like the best technology is simple.
Well, we're going to stick with Scotty and say we don't want to complicate the plumbing.
Right.
So a Dutch startup company called the Ocean Grazer is coming up with this idea that we could take and put basically a battery storage system on the bottom of the ocean, shallow water near your wind turbine farm or your solar farm or whatever you're doing, your wave action farm.
Right.
And this would basically act like a concreted in reservoir for your power.
I got a question, and it didn't occur to me, but you just made me think of this. It's like, okay, well, one advantage of it being underwater is you don't have to look at it. You don't have an ugly, whatever, power thing there. But another thing that occurred to me is it keeps it cool. There's probably use in keeping something from overheating or something. I don't know if there's mechanics. I don't know what the salt water does to it, if that's an issue, but,
depending
on what you make it out of. So,
part of the way this works is it has a huge bladder that is filled with fresh water, which is at a much lower pressure than the salt water that's encased around it.
Okay, gotcha.
So now we have, just like you were talking about your wave, you now have the ability to create motion.
Right. Okay.
From a high pressure to a low pressure, vice versa. So this reservoir can be used to basically move the water back and forth. And the moment we have motion, we have energy.
And it's pretty
This is
continual.
pretty
Oceans
simple.
don't just go flat. They're continually moving. I saw one that they had it set up. Now, I don't think I like this because they had one that was set up right at the beach, somewhere, and it was catching, because when the wave comes in, I think it was somewhere in Australia, that's a lot of energy, but that's kind of ugly too. I don't want to, the steady one out in the middle of the ocean seemed like a better option. So,
but here we go. Now we have a consistent source of motion, consistent source of energy. So as the grid needs power, we could ratchet these up or down depending upon what our needs are. So if we got a really beautiful day like today, it's sunny, it's gorgeous, we got a light breeze, so everybody's solar would be cranking.
Right.
But the temperatures are very pleasant.
Sure.
We're in the, for those of you listening in the Celsius world, we're in the 20s. For those of you in the Fahrenheit worlds, we're in the 70s.
Right.
It's a
70s
beautiful
is the
day.
perfect,
it's absolutely beautiful out there. So we wouldn't be using a ton of power. Now, a few weeks ago when we were cranked up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, everybody's air conditioner was running and we were burning through power as fast as it could be made. So these type of setups gently give us backup power that really actually doesn't depend on the sun per se.
Well, all of these things, because I hear the arguments out there, Allan. I'm always hearing it's like, well, I see these posts and they're always ripping like electric vehicles. It's like, well, they're not as they're not perfected yet. I mean, a lot of these things to do with like backup power or this new technology, it doesn't come right out of the gate, as efficient as it will be. But the idea is to start steering in that direction, because this thing that today is the backup power may be the main source of power in the near future. And man, if it's cleaner and if it's just basically relying on nature and the movement of the ocean, I would say if the ocean stopped moving, again, we have bigger problems anyway. So it's like, I think we can kind of count on. We can count on the sun. We can count on the movement of the ocean. We can probably count on wind in certain parts of the country. I think it's great, man.
Well, I'm going to give you a slight analogy here as to how technology changes and improves. You are the world's greatest builder of violins.
Okay.
You make the world's finest violins. Does that make you the world's finest violinist?
Oh, now that's a very good point. So, you may not be able to play a note, man.
I'm pointing out that a lot of the companies looking at these technologies are looking at them as a development.
Right.
They're solving amazing problems. And I find it very funny that what is new probably was old, because the ideas of using a form of high to low pressure to create energy, we've been doing that for centuries in a forge with a bellows.
Right.
We create pressure. Folks, that's moving energy.
Right.
And so, I mean, when you really think about it, moving energy and creating energy is actually pretty shockingly simple.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching this one with great interest, because there's a few companies working on it, which is good, because then I think anytime there's competition, that everybody's game, they step up their game, and it always works better. So
there's a little variety out there. So I'm looking to see what the concerto, what the next genius at applying this technology comes up with.
Yeah. I mean, the simple thing is to just look around the world and say, what are our consistent consistent areas of motion, and what are some consistent things that are generating power? And you got wind, ocean, movement, the sun. There's probably other, wind currents up in the air where airplanes fly. I mean, that's some serious wind up there. I don't know. There's a lot of things we can tap into. Just got to use our imagination.
And relax a little bit, and know not everything's going to be perfect on the first round, but it's going to constantly get better.
Okay, Allan, tell us about this trash wheel, because this is on the other end of the spectrum. Well, this is cleaning up a mess. But
we've been talking about a variety of devices for a very long time. We've been talking about picking up the trash for years.
Well, there's that rumor that there's that big wad of plastic out in the middle of the ocean.
No, that's not a rumor.
No, I know.
It's not a rumor.
They're debating, is it the size of Texas? Is it the size of what? It's pretty big.
It varies a little bit.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it is microplastic. So if you float out into the center of the Sargasso Sea, where this is sitting, and you looked for all of these plastic bags to be floating around, they're not.
It's a different type.
But if you get a glass of water and throw a magnifying glass on it, you're going to see millions of tiny little particles that have been ground down by the act of the ocean, the waves, the sunlight, and all that.
Right.
So it's creating a microplastic problem, which is a real problem, because those microplastics are starting to show up in us.
Well, because the fish eat them, and we eat the fish, and there you go. We're becoming androids.
Well, I'm already part android, so it doesn't matter. All right, but what if we just got the stuff to not get in the ocean to start with?
Right. Yeah, that's a better solution. Let's just not put it in the ocean.
So here we go. There are a lot of different ideas, and this latest one I loved because it was a 52-foot long robotic, for lack of a better word, a trash wheel.
Yeah.
This thing looks like something out of a steampunk invention.
Yeah.
It's great. So what it has is a 2 lead-in funnels, like a corral, like a boma. Like you see on the Discovery Channel when they're trying to catch animals. So they have these things that will guide the floating
Allan's backyard.
trash. Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So the trash is coming down and winds up funneling into the boma. And this thing is solar powered, and it has this great big scoop so that the critters and stuff you don't want can fall out of it. But the plastics and
you
things you do want are scooped out of the water and sent off to recycling.
So wait a minute. So it gathers it. I was going to say, how do you not scoop up the fish? Although I would hope that a lot of the fish are going to swim away from this thing as it's coming through. But
they've even added camera systems and identification points to make sure we're just picking up the trash.
Okay.
We don't want that sea turtle to go for a free ride.
Right.
So we want the organics to stay out, but we want the plastics to come on. The problem with plastics is, of course, they're not magnetic or something, which would make things very easy.
Sure.
So, we've got to get a little imaginative here.
Now, are these in the ocean or are these in rivers or lakes?
These are currently in the rivers before it gets out into the ocean.
Oh, good. Okay.
And they're kind of off to one side where the natural eddies gather the trash anyway.
Okay, is this trash coming from just people littering? Because littering is one of my pet
plain
peeves,
and simple.
especially plastics. That's
plain and simple. Yes,
that's
just
the bigger
urban
issue.
waste.
Can you just solve just people not littering? It's
but we're just going to leave this in the stuff happens.
Yeah,
and if it does happen, we now have a wide variety of different kinds of mechanisms to help catch it, clean it, and get it out.
So it gathers it up and then it sends it off to be recycled.
Well, it has a big storage cabin in the back where the plastic goes, and then they come pick it up, and off it goes to be recycled.
Huh. It's and it's a 52-foot wheel. That's pretty big. It's a pretty big diameter.
It is, and keep in mind that the lead-in trays go out for hundreds of feet around it. So it cleans a very wide area, and being positioned downstream in the river means the river does the gathering for it.
I was going to say, you could probably find the strategic points where things swirl around, and they really, because that's the one, I guess, good thing is with water currents and things, it's not going to just be uniformly across the top. It's probably going to swirl around and go over to that corner over there and whatever.
That's exactly correct, because in some of these cities, because of some of this that they're looking at doing these in is over in Asia and Africa. And when you are at the bottom of an urban area going out to the ocean, some of these eddied areas, these little embankments going back in towards land, honestly look like plastic dumps.
Right.
They're just completely full of urban trash that has blown into the river. So by having these kind of catch systems, they're honestly removing tons of plastics before they have a chance to break down and wander out into the ocean.
Huh. Well, we'll be following this one with great. How many companies are working on this one? So
there are actually quite a few around the world. This particular company that I was looking at is on the Nairobi River. They're right there in Africa.
Okay.
And so, but when you look at the sheer amount of the garbage that comes down, especially India, China, Africa, it's staggering, the amount of resource. Now, because they're recycling it, basically this bad boy is picking up a free resource that we were completely wasting.
See, that's the key. It's like you got to find a way to make this, financially, you got to give people financial incentive to do this. So basically, you're looking at this as plastic. Well, now we've got a resource. Maybe they'll make tires out of it or something. I don't know what they'll make, but they can make something out of it.
Well, one of our favorite things is they make really good paving bricks.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of products that can really make use of multi-use plastics.
Yeah, pretty cool. I just wonder, man, you just wonder if they can crack this one too. This is another one. I will say this though, the one development that I feel like would solve a lot of this are those biodegradable plastics you've been talking about. Because if we get to that, I think that's the other thing. Maybe you don't need this big wheel. You get biodegradable where you just bury it or you throw it,
Well, I think we're going to wind up with kind of a D, all of the above.
Right. I mean, we still have to clean up the mess now.
Yeah, certain products will work best with a certain type. Other products may need something more durable, and we'll need a way to recycle that.
Yeah. So, but that pretty interesting stuff, Allan. So, well, I don't want to start any new stories yet, Allan, because we're we're winding up. But let's set the table for the next segment. How about that? We're gonna when we come back, we've got great moments in building history, our must-have item of the week, and also you're gonna talk to in honor of Halloween. You're gonna say no, your house is not haunted. It
Yes.
just became. We'll get into that one. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Hour 1 is in the can, but stay tuned for Hour 2.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out the action over there. There's a video that we posted that we're going to be about a topic we're going to be discussing shortly in our great moments in building history. And I posted the must-have item of the week. And Allan, let's just get to that quickly because
Alrighty.
this great moments in building history is going to be a lot of fun, but let's get this out of the way. So tell people what I'm holding up.
You are holding up one of my favorite tools ever. It is the 3-inch flat wedge or scraper, if you want to call it that, and it is for beating the bejesus out of tile.
It looks like a scraper.
It looks like a putty knife.
It looks like a putty knife until you try to bend the blade, and it
doesn't
ain't
bend.
moving. And then you're like, why is there a big?
It's got a nice chisel edge to it, so it's also called the 3-inch flat chisel.
Right, and why is there a metal knob at the back that you can whack with it?
Bang it with a hammer?
Because I'm not doing any scraping with this, Allan. This thing, and I'm not doing any spackling with this. As a matter of fact, I just bought these. I will say, these. I've destroyed a few of these in the past,
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, so this is about a 3-inch blade. This whole thing, it's very. I will say it's real comfortable to use, but this baby, I'm using it because I think I mentioned that now, among other things, I'm gutting a couple of bathrooms, and this is there's quite a bit of tile. The floors are tiled. There's a lot of the walls are tiled, things like that. And so I need something that's because I've got a pretty hardy crowbar and a pry bar, but that's too thick. Like that doesn't like to get under the tile. It doesn't get
under that edge right into that thin set.
You need and then of course a regular scraper is too thin and you can't smack it with a hammer. I've used those 5-way tools sometimes. But those bend in the hand. They're not, they can't handle it as well either.
They're designed to be a multi-tool. They're not designed to take the abuse, that is.
But this flat edge, folks, it's amazing. I've been knocking out tile. I want to say this is on the floor. It's 16-inch by 16-inch squares of tile. So that alone is challenging. So this baby, man, you get under there, and if you get this blade about halfway under, and you give it just the right kind of lift, it pulls the whole tile out.
It'll just snap it right out of there.
I've broken some in half, and then of course the shower tile is this. Man, it was it's this ugly 12-inch by 12-inch square tile. It's still pretty thick, and this thing takes it off in one whack.
Oh, yeah.
You hit it maybe 1 or 2 times, and boom, it takes it off. But, man, Allan's always talking about the proper tool for the proper job. And if you've got some demolition work, you don't always need the sledgehammer. You don't always need, the massive crowbar or pry bar. No, sorry, Max. It's, sometimes you need a little finesse. I'd say this has the right balance of finesse and destruction.
Yeah, just sheer demolition power. There is something about, and this is just one of these weird things, if you've never done tiling before and you're trying to get rid of some tile, you have one of those and you just get it right under that edge of the grout and just start tapping it in, how fast and easy it will separate. And it's what you felt was completely concreted in forever.
Right.
With the proper tool, an hour later, it is like destruction therapy.
It's
Oh
very
yeah, you feel so
satisfying.
much better, and whatever you wanted dead has been destroyed.
Yeah, and one of those. It's one of those things, though. Please, if you're removing tile, man, I cannot stress enough: wear gloves and safety glasses. Don't just rely on whatever. You got to protect your eyes because little very thin little bits of
I'm going to
ceramic
throw in
can come
knee
at you.
pads,
Yeah,
eye protection, full face protection. To be perfectly honest, if you got a face shield,
this isn't a bad time for a face shield.
This
honestly.
is not a bad time for a face shield because this is just one of these cases where the darndest things can fly up into the air and ricochet. And you and I have always talked about for years about 30 years of stupid.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where you can truly discover what somebody forgot, didn't do.
Yeah.
There's a penny under there. There's a hair clip, maybe an old straight pin, or, you have no idea what's underneath there.
You just I didn't mean to talk about this, Alan, but as long as you said it, there's a growing trend out there, and I am 100% behind this trend. This is a little segue, but there's a lot of practical jokers out there. Like, for example, they're putting in kitchen cabinets.
Oh, yeah.
And you have that dead space in the corner between these, like, kitchen cabinets.
Hiding the Halloween skeletons.
And they're putting, like, a Halloween skeleton, wearing, like, workman clothes or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that in 30 years,
no idea what you're talking about, Joe.
So in 30 or 40 years, when they open up that hollow space, or you open up that wall, you find these. That's,
well, all right. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to do something like that, please put a note on it that says "just joking." So somebody doesn't have you arrested for murder when you're 80.
That's no fun. You gotta, But I think hide some stuff. Why not put a little
leave them a message?
I was seriously thinking, Alan, because we were doing some sheetrock work, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to leave a little time capsule in there, or just a little note to whoever finds this? I might start doing that just for kicks. Why not? Have a little fun.
Actually, I have uncovered those.
Yeah.
Working on some buildings out west that had been there since like the 1880s or 1890s. So whoever built it actually did like a signature wall.
Sure.
And then mudded over it and went on, and it was 90 years later, we're replacing it with gypsum. We're putting in sheetrock.
Right.
And, you open it up, and here were all the signatures of everybody that built that building in 1880. It was kind of cool.
Here we go. I did not mean to talk about this, but one way, all of us have like old phones laying around. It's funny how the cell phone we had only 10 years ago looks like an antique. It looks like a dinosaur. Yeah. Well, wrap it up, stick it in the wall, and leave a little note. People wouldn't that be cool 100 years from now? They're like, this is a primitive communication device that we've uncut. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. So,
well, bizarre things have been found in walls. Everything from antique glassware, soda bottles, and that kind of stuff. To I actually own several over 100-year-old tools.
Oh yeah,
found in the walls of job sites where it got accidentally left 100 years ago.
Yeah. Did you see the skeletons of the workers with the tools?
Yeah, that's the Winchester House.
Yeah.
All right, that's someplace different.
Anyway, it was just a little thought that occurred to me when you were saying that, Al. But yeah, I think that's a lot. Have some fun. Come on, do future generations a favor. Make it, make their life interesting. So, that could be a movement. Maybe just, time capsules.
40 years from now on the DIY shows. And let's see what they left for us behind here.
I think that could, honestly, if it became something like that, then it would just be standard politeness. Well, they didn't, they need, what did they leave behind or something like that?
I'm going to leave you a box of Mylar balloons so you can celebrate renovating your kitchen. There you go.
All right. I guess we've gone on enough. Hey, in a moment, we're going to get to our great moments in building history. Before we get to that, though, I don't know if Larry's ever tried that maneuver. Our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration, maybe that needs to be something they start considering. Inside the HVAC systems, why not, put a little time capsule in there? So,
well, they got little stickers that say Brown Refrigeration, so that always makes me happy to see that.
I'm going to ask him about his idea with that. But anyway, if you have any HVAC needs, if you have heating and air conditioning is, as we say, it's sort of the lungs of your home.
Yes.
I guess it's important to have clean air, and in fact, probably later in the show, we're going to be talking about why it's important. You have to have air that's conditioned. You have to have air that is not only clean. It's not only clean air, but it's cleaning, like you get with the Remy Halo system, which is still a really. It's another basic concept that is revolutionary.
Flu season is coming, and something that would eliminate the bacterial and other organics in your air. That is a great idea.
And you know this, Alan. You go someplace. We've been to places where the air is not clean. You've been in a building or something, and it's like, oh, man. But then you go into these homes or some place where the air is obviously really good air quality. And, man, we are breathing. It's just like you need to eat healthy and drink healthy. Well, you need to breathe healthy.
Yes, you do.
The healthier the air is in your home, the better off you are. So, and they do it all with Brown Refrigeration. And they also, you can manage all of it with the smart home technology that they have. So you can have an app on your phone and set your thermostat and monitor your system and keep it as efficient as possible. And, of course, they have a great business culture over at Brown Refrigeration. They answer their phones.
Yes, they do.
I could name some names out there that I'm not gonna, but great customer service, great, and everybody from the people that work in their office to their technicians, it's just top quality. Larry Brown demands excellence, from top to bottom, and that's what you get with Brown Refrigeration. So if you have any HVAC needs or clean air needs, give them a call. You can call directly at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. All right, Max, hit it.
And now, great moments in building history.
So, Alan, I got a text about this the other day. They think they know who that mysterious voice is. They thought it was Ewan McGregor. Somehow they thought we had a budget to hire Ewan McGregor.
Hello there.
One day, if you've got any thoughts about who that mysterious voice could be that introduces
I can't imagine.
Anyway, so, all right, great moments in building history. This was a little confusing, I got to admit, Alan. Halfway through the research, I said, wait a minute. I was confusing 40 Wall Street with the Empire State Building. They kind of look similar, whatever. But
they are designed right in the height of Art Deco.
Right.
So that's going to be the style.
Yeah.
So both of them were thought of at the same time for the same reasons, kind of with the same idea, done by drastically different people in drastically different areas.
Okay, so let's set the table. So we're looking at right now. We're in the 1920s. We're in New York. We're in the Roaring 20s.
Everything
they don't know about what's coming in the next decade and everything. But there were two business partners. They actually they started off as business partners. There was William Van Allen, who you would say he was more of the artistic wing of the. He was a really talented architect, and he leaned into the artistry. And then Craig Severance was H. Craig Severance. I don't know what H stood for. He was the hardcore businessman. He was all about making the company profitable and everything. And you kind of need both in a thing. However,
in a balance.
Both of them had pretty strong egos, as a lot of people do in those situations, and they just butted heads. You can't have, you don't have two captains on a starship, Alan. There's a reason for that. You don't have each person has to be in their lane, but apparently they just finally went their separate ways, and apparently the breakup was a little contentious, and they soon became rivals. And so basically, William Van Allen was commissioned by the Chrysler Corporation, which is named after a guy named Chrysler.
Well, that would be Walter P. Chrysler. That would be the man who privately financed the entire thing.
Well, if you look at what this building was supposed to be, so the Chrysler Building is that, I'm sure you've seen it, folks. It's that kind of Art Deco. It's got a real pointy, top and everything in New York. And it was basically, you can almost say it's a shrine to Chrysler about all his achievements and everything he's accomplished.
I just remember a random line from The Simpsons about the Chrysler Building. This is the only reason I know about it is, Mr. Burns was talking about all his relatives, how they died, and one of them said was impaled on the Chrysler Building.
Well, it looks like a monster could easily be impaled on this thing. I mean, it has got it's got this spire that I want to say
there was ego involved in this.
It's 180 feet tall. It's a well, we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But anyway, simultaneous. So he got commissioned by Chrysler, and Chrysler was all about making this not a cookie cutter building. He wanted style. Some people of the day called it tacky. I think it's a pretty cool looking building. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
At the time it was built, it was, let's just say it was tacky.
It probably was. So then across town, or you've got a bunch of, what is it called? The Manhattan Group over on 40 Wall Street, which that's the heart of it, right? Isn't that the heart of the financial district? This is all about the stock trades and everything like that. And we're talking the Roaring 20s, so they needed a big edifice, and they wanted to build 40 Wall Street's a pretty boring name. I hate to say it. I mean, couldn't you come up with something? I think they had a few nicknames for this building, but basically they went to H. Craig Severance. Now that was the hard-nosed businessman.
Right.
And both, but they were both commissioned. So Chrysler commissioned William. He wanted this building to be artistic, but he also specifically said, "I want this to be the tallest building in the world."
Yes.
Well, I guess the 40 Wall Street crew heard about this, and they said, "We want this building to be interesting and functional, but we want this to also be the tallest building in the world." And that started the whole race, Alan. So here we go. And you have to wonder, did they each? I mean, scuttlebutt gets around. I'm sure they each knew they were competing for the tallest building in the world, right?
Well, not only were they competing for the world's tallest building, they were also competing for resources.
Because good point. I mean, they got to hire people. They got to buy materials.
There were only so many people that hung iron, and there was only so many suppliers that could supply the amount of iron they had to hang.
And you have to wonder, people are like, what? Because at the time, I want to say, I was looking up the highest building at that time, and I want to say it was like 500 and something feet tall. Well, what they were each proposing, what's ironic is each of them proposed a 67-story building, and they each came to 809 feet tall. Well, that's that's a lot taller. So you start wondering, our workmen, like our foremen and these people going, geez, I don't want to work on that. That sounds dangerous. This is before skyscrapers were a thing. This is still pretty new. Right?
Well, then again, you flipped the script on that, and you had Native Americans who did not have the inner ear issues that a lot of Europeans did, so they didn't get dizzy in heights.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So you have when you start talking about the competition between these two building projects,
right,
you really cross a lot of lines,
right? Because
you have the very competitive boroughs in New York. Who gets
They are
what.
almost like their own little countries.
They're like little fiefdoms.
Yeah, you have over here is
exactly. Yeah. And you also have the fact that this was Walter P. Chrysler.
Right. And this guy had an
man
ego.
Building car.
Yeah.
Dude, he had an ego to go with all it. Yeah. Well, we can say he had an ego, but he was privately funding the building of the world's largest building.
Yeah.
So he had some accomplishments to go with that ego.
Yeah. Well, and
he was, to quote Jurassic Park, he was sparing no expense.
Well, the thing is, what's interesting about this race is, okay, so we're talking 67 stories, 809 feet tall. Well, okay, they each heard about this, and I really, it's very curious to me. People talk, people know each other. They probably thought, hey, we know these two guys are at each other's throats, and we know maybe we'll get the best work out of them because we're gonna use this rivalry to our advantage. Well, so now redesigns start. They're like, well, wait a minute. We've got to make sure we win this race. So for Van Allen, he's doing the Chrysler Building. They added 10 more stories to their plans. But now, because back in the day, once they say, hey, we're going to build the world's tallest building, they announce it to the press.
Right.
They want people to know about this. They want to create excitement. Well, once the war started, Van Allen and Chrysler kept all their plans hidden from this point on.
Yes, they did.
So, I had a couple questions about that anyway, but apparently Severance did not. They were happy to announce. So he's out there saying, we're doing this. He added 5 stories, and he added like some sort of a pyramid and a flagpole which was now going to bring this one to 927 feet. So he just added 100 and something. He added 109 feet, whatever it is. So he added 119 feet. Okay, well, Allan, here's my question. 118 feet. Sorry, don't correct my math, people. Okay, Allan, you got to get permits for this stuff. You can't just say, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to add another 10 stories. I'm going to add whatever." Did they not have building permits back then? Well, they did all this stuff in secret. You know?
Had the finest inspectors money could buy.
Is that what was going on?
Well, keep in mind. All right, now keep in mind, you have two drastically different camps here.
Right.
You have a privately owned camp in a borough with money and industry, and the Chrysler Building, where they're building it, makes sense.
What do you mean by that? I didn't think of that.
Because it is an economic area. Chrysler's ego has this building being built
right
appropriately, where it should be, in a proper area with all of the proper facts and fixins and other stuff.
Okay.
And when we come back, I'm going to tell you where they built the Empire State Building.
Well, spoiler out. We didn't even mention the Empire State Building. Okay, folks, pretend Allan didn't say that. But no, that's true. We there's a lot of poetry in this. There's a lot of
I kind of wanted to contribute to what you might call history's greatest middle finger.
Oh gosh, okay, Max.
It is.
But what's interesting, all of this ugliness and came crashing down, you could say, and we're gonna continue the drama when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Gonna paint your wagon, gonna paint it fine. Gonna use oil-based paint, cause the wood is pine.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
Oh, I still like him.
Max just loves to trigger me. Just because you're
paid $47 to fill up the Bronco today.
What the hell did you just say?
No, man. Just because you're painting pine doesn't mean you have to use oil base. As a matter of fact, I would say there's no connection there at all.
Yeah, but it sounded good. It sang nice.
Although, in fairness, pine is very sappy, and the oil base will keep it from bleeding through. But I wouldn't paint a wagon. Whatever. Let's just get to it. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the ever-provocative Max over there behind the glass.
Painting with pine.
Exactly.
No, painting with oil base.
You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to also go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out the action over there. And we've posted links. I posted a link to a video that's discussing a really fascinating topic where we're going to jump right back into in our great moments in building history. And I also posted our must-have item of the week, which we strongly endorse. This is an item you definitely want, folks. The 3-inch flat chisel. Very rugged, very destructive, and really handy. So, and I just want to remind people before we jump into our discussion, you can call or text us, at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline during the show. If you want to leave a voicemail for us, like if maybe there's something you want us to discuss, if it's outside of show hours, call 901-921-7105. But you can still text us 24 hours a day at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline. You can just, even send pictures. And so if you've got questions, like our listener earlier who had questions about squirrel invasion, get in touch with us over there. So, well, Allan, this is interesting. Off the air, I was like, okay, we got a lot to cover here. We're talking about basically, it was a battle between two former business partners who became bitter rivals,
right.
William Van Allen and H. Craig Severance. One was more artistic, one was a hardcore businessman, but they were both engaged on Van Allen was building the Chrysler Building, which I think is very familiar to people. It's got that Art Deco style spire. It looks like if a monster flew down, it was going to get impaled on this thing, like we said.
It's a beautiful building.
And the more sensible, I guess you could say, the more conservative looking building, the 40 Wall Street, Severance was hired to build that. And basically they started off almost exactly the same height. And and they were both commissioned to make the world's tallest building. And so they started, and once they learned that they were competing, they started adding things. They added 10 stories. They were adding these spires. They added this, different features to make it as tall as possible. And so to cut to the chase, because there's actually a very interesting thing that happened sideways here. So Van Allen is doing the Chrysler Building. They're keeping, at this point, they're not announcing anything anymore. Right. They're keeping all of their plans secret. And the Severns was pretty sure they were going to win because in fact, they finished first. They did. And they based on what you saw from the street, it's like, okay, well, we won this battle. Well, what they didn't know was that Van Allen and Chrysler had a secret weapon up their sleeves. They had the building finished. I mean, they had the outside, framed and everything. And then they took this 180-foot, what they called the vertex. That's that big pointy spear at the top of the tower. And it weighs like 20 tons, Alan. Can you imagine trying to assemble that? And it took about an hour and a half, and people are watching from the street, and they put that up. And once they put that up, now this building was 1,046 feet, and it was the tallest building in the world. And they won the battle and so they're both they're feeling very smug. They're feeling and there's something afterwards that happened that we're going to get into. But Alan, this is what was sort of hilarious about this whole thing. So for about 6 months, the Chrysler Building was the tallest building in the world, but across town something else was going on.
40 Wall Street held the record for about a week.
Right.
And then Chrysler's like,
yeah, we got this.
Did you enjoy that? Did you have a good time? Now watch what we're going to do.
Chrysler was like, hold my beer.
And here we go.
Okay. And then, so they're the tallest building.
All right.
Yeah.
And nobody has really paid any attention to this completely stupid idea.
Right.
That we're going to build a great big giant building to revitalize the demilitarized zone over there on the other side.
Hold on. You because we didn't really touch on. You said something before the break that you said the Chrysler Building was very sensibly located. It was in the middle of even 40 Wall Street was located in the right zone.
Were in the right areas where the economics were appropriate for this.
Okay.
And these guys were in the right, they were where their people were.
So the building from a business standpoint, it should thrive. People are going to want to go to this building, right?
Yeah, they're ready to go. They're ready to go. So, all right. Chrysler, in spite of the fact that most of his business is like in Detroit, he wants this building to be his edifice for his children and for all time.
Yeah.
So he builds it right there, and they're in the financial district. They're where they need to be.
Sure.
Well, here comes government. And government goes, what we really need to do is move some of these people over here where we don't have any money going on.
Where real estate is cheap.
So here we are where New York didn't do any surveys. They didn't decide that we need another giant building because we got 2 going up, right? And keep in mind, Chrysler's business, he's not moving everybody to New York. He's just building a great big Chrysler building.
Right.
So it's going to need tenants.
Sure.
So here we go. 34th Street, way away from 42nd and 50th, is kind of no man's land.
Sure.
So the government got all the dirt for cheap. They've been quietly sitting over to the sidelines, letting these two duke it out.
Right.
And as their project's finished, everybody in the resources kind of moved down to the 34th Street location. And about 6 months later, everybody's sitting around for the designation of, the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, the Empire State Building, which sounds tall. The Empire State Building, that just sounds like a tall building. They built it 6 months later, which to me is sort of funny.
They finished 6 months later.
Because there wasn't a whole lot of talk about this between this rivalry going on. And I'm like, how do they not know what's going on over here?
But they didn't pay any attention because it was over there.
Okay.
It wasn't up here where we're fighting it out.
Well, the reason I thought this was interesting is because, 40 Wall Street and then the neighborhood where the Chrysler Building was. Well, the base of the building can only be so big. You can't just Well, at the Empire State Building, they're buying up cheap real estate. They could tear down 50 buildings and make a big wide base and then make their thing tall. And what's interesting is the Empire State Building, it remained the tallest building for over 4 decades.
Yes.
It's sort of interesting that these guys fought it out. They were going tooth and nail. And then I just want to give a little what happened to these guys. So basically, Van Allan. This is a warning because we know a lot of artists. I know this mentality here. Well, Van Allan never actually signed a contract with Chrysler. They had some sort of an agreement, and when payday came, when he was supposed to receive his $14 million, which I don't even know what that is in today's money. That's quite a bit. Chrysler was like, I don't think we agreed to that, and he basically didn't pay him.
Nope.
So he had to take him to court, which apparently destroyed his reputation, because if you're an architect and you sue the person that hired you, you're never going to work again, which he didn't. He never built another building. Now, I guess he got some of his money, but then he went in and he became a sculpture teacher. So
it's kind of like, all right, I'm done.
And then Severance, apparently, he only built like one other building, and then the Great Depression hit, and it hit him pretty badly, and then he passed away, sadly, in 1941. And so this big rivalry that they were going tooth and nail at. Go ahead, Max.
My question is how many construction workers died or fell to their deaths as a result of feeding these people's egos?
That's always the question. I don't know.
Actually, shockingly few. Because of the trick is it's expensive to replace an iron worker.
Well,
so you don't want them falling off of stuff.
Yeah.
And there is also the legend with Native Americans in that area that they don't suffer from vertigo.
You said there was a lot of Native American workers on this.
I
didn't know that.
That's because of their unique genetics. They did not suffer from vertigo like you or I would. So they made great iron workers. And if you watch any of the old newsreels, it's absolutely horrifyingly terrifying to watch these people walk the iron with no safety straps. It's like an OSHA nightmare.
Okay, because we've all seen that famous photograph where the guys are sitting up on they're sitting up on that I-beam eating their lunch. And I was like, is that trick photography?
No.
Because I thought maybe there was something just underneath
I even saw one where there was like a guy playing golf.
Right.
Could you imagine working that one slip, one lack of concentration?
They had crazy daredevils and stuff. Balancing acts were the big thing in like vaudeville at the time. And if you wanted to be like the total bomb of vaudeville, you went and climbed up on top of one of these idiot things with a photographer, and you went out on the edge of a piece of iron, and you balanced on a chair, and you dangled up. You got some of the pictures and newsreels from this time.
It's, hey, guys, watch this.
Right, exactly.
It is, your heart is just, you're going, no, one pigeon, and you're going 1,000 feet to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of macho stupidity back then. But hey,
All right, shockingly, Max, yes, there were terrible accidents. Shockingly fewer than you think.
Probably less than the Brooklyn Bridge, right?
I wouldn't have to look them up, but yeah, these people really had pride in what they were building.
Yeah, I just feel like this is more about human psychology, and boy, I just wonder what this did.
There's
to these
a lot
guys.
of gotchas in this stuff.
It's like, and then I wonder about how Chrysler felt, because he was all about, I want the world's tallest building.
Yeah,
he has an interesting looking building, but
Well,
and then he's bested by the man.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then, all right, let me throw in the twist of the Empire State Building real quick. The twist is it was empty.
Well,
they
stayed
built empty.
Yeah.
Because it was in the wrong part of town. Nobody wanted to go down there. And then there comes this article in the New York Times about, hey, we paid for this giant empty building. So the management company got real slick and hired a crew to do nothing in the evenings except go all up and down the elevators and turn on and turn off different offices all up and down the building to make it look occupied.
Yeah.
And it worked, people thought people were in it, so businesses began moving in, and the rest is kind of history.
I guess another publicity stunt, too, you might call this a publicity stunt, but one structure, the Empire State Building, I find rather fascinating is the very top of it. It has what was called a mooring mast, which is used for docking dirigibles or docking zeppelins. And although one was never actually recorded to dock on it, they photoshopped one, so to say, to make it look like there was one on there. But imagine what sort of reputation you get for that. Like, hey, we're docking the next generation of aerial vehicles here.
Yeah.
Oh, there was some serious bragging rights going on with these buildings.
That era is sort of fascinating because I just have to wonder if, like, the Hindenburg didn't happen, would Zeppelin still be a thing for generations?
Would Led Zeppelin be a thing?
Right.
Uh-oh.
What they put on the front of their first album cover. But no, it's just interesting because this was the city of the future. I'll tell you, in the 30s, in that era, the 20s and the 30s, it was all about, they were talking about going to space. They were talking about the latest, craves and technology and everything. And so a Zeppelin dock on your building, that's cool.
Right, but
they
just
would want that.
Picture, if you will, since most of the people in this country are basically of immigrant stock from somewhere.
Sure.
When you go back to the 10s, 20s, and 30s of the 20th century, can you picture as a normal everyday person from any number of countries on a boat coming into New York City?
Sure.
That had to look like you were landing on an alien planet.
No kidding. I mean, a lot of, like, my own mother, she came from from Tipperary, Ireland, where the tallest building she ever saw was like 3 or 4 stories, and then suddenly you're dealing with skyscrapers and massive.
And the other thing is, look at the size of this city. If you approached it kind of in the middle, like a boat's coming in,
right,
and it's headed towards Ellis Island, you saw a city as far as you could see to the right and as far as you could see to the left, and it went up.
Sure.
And I mean, it had to look, it's a picture you can look on a postcard, but you cannot imagine the sense of wonder.
Oh, I know.
Anybody pulling into those harbors had to feel.
When I lived in Chicago, Allan, I used to we'd go to the Sears Tower, and we did this thing. I remember when we were kids. You get up to it and you lean back against it and you look straight up, and you're like, it just felt like it was just going forever. It never, and it's like, gosh, But anyway, very interesting. That was a pretty extended, great moment in building history. Was it great? I mean.
They're still there.
Great doesn't always mean good.
Well, those
or smart.
Those buildings are still standing. They're still in function. They're still being used. And keep in mind, they weren't designed for the modern world.
No, that's true. They've all had to be upgraded and
retrofitted. And they have.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. Let's shift gear. We got more to get to.
Okay.
So we teased this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The IKEA paradigm. Now, we like IKEA, I guess. I don't want to get sued or anything. But what do you mean by the IKEA paradigm? That was something you wanted to bring up, and you said this in a disgruntled sort of way.
Well, I've got to give massive marketing props to the IKEA Corporation.
Yeah.
That of knockdown furniture is now haute cuisine. It is the ability. All right. Well, honestly, let's look at furniture. If you try to buy a piece of furniture, it's bulky, it's big, it's huge, and it's difficult to ship.
And you basically buy it, and you got to find a way to get it home. So,
right. So I mean, if you think about furniture in a traditional sense, well, here comes this company out of let's just face it, not the marketing centers of the universe.
Okay.
A little Scandinavian company quietly and very rapidly grew huge.
Well, their basic premise, if I'm correct, is, okay, well, we're going to make all the components and you assemble it yourself, and there's easy to follow directions, and that saves them a ton of labor and storage
and shipping. Because now
and
we
you get the benefit of it.
Right. You get everything in the box that we would have put together for you.
And if you're sending a kid off to if you're sending a kid off to college, they're going to have a few pieces of IKEA furniture.
So, I find the twist of buying new furniture that you have to build yourself in 2020. Guys, it's the future. We live in the future. If you don't believe we live in the future, look at your cell phone. When was the last time you actually spoke on it?
Yeah.
It does everything else. It does your news. It does all this. So here we go back to the oldest school version of furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, knockdown furniture.
So that's what it's known as, knockdown furniture.
It's knockdown furniture because it's in a box. It's knocked down. Here are the pieces to put together. And honestly, this is how furniture existed for thousands of years. If you had to move, Joe, you took the chair apart, you threw it in the back of the wagon, and, with all the other furniture, and you knew how to put it together when you got to where you were going.
So what's your beef? I guess I don't get that.
My paradigm with this is that as a lot of people have become less handy,
okay,
we now have a furniture company selling a bejesus amount of furniture that you got to be handy to put together.
Isn't that what's needed, though? Don't we need to get people more handy? I mean, we don't want to be general, but, there's less craftsmen around today.
Right. There are far less people that are handy at doing stuff like this.
To me, this seems like a good direction to go then, to try to...
But here's a company that has gone against every other trend on the planet and is delivering of, a lot of product.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of product. And I mean beds, mattresses, furniture, chairs, couches. It comes in a box. Here you go. Here are the parts. Let's start putting this baby together. And I'm just kind of wondering for the IKEA fans. So I have a question for them. What about the IKEA furniture? What about the IKEA mystique?
Yeah, I don't get what you're, if people want that.
I am not a fan. I am not a fan.
Okay.
I am just terribly not a fan. So my question to our listening public all around the world, because the world's, I was recently informed, the recently most published thing in the world is the IKEA catalog.
Okay.
They make like 200 million of them a year.
See, this could be a counterpoint, because I personally think they're providing a great service. They're getting us working with our hands and with tools. What do you think, Max? I mean,
I don't care. I just want to push the button.
I want to know, what is this mystique about IKEA that makes it so popular?
Okay, I think I see where
I don't get it.
All right, I think I get
it.
Okay, because I was like, what is Allan complaining about? I think it's the same way that there's almost, look, full disclosure, I have an iPhone.
Right.
We know the almost cult-like status of the people that follow Steve Jobs, like he's the next, messiah or something. And so there is this sort of almost cult of Apple, you could say. Well, do you feel like the same thing's going on with IKEA?
Definitely.
Well, who cares?
Definitely.
Okay. Everybody's got their own fandom, I guess.
I'm asking, what is this great mystique to this?
Please, gentlemen, allow me.
Okay. I don't even know if this is worth the debate. Okay, I expected something more contentious here, Allan. So, let's get,
we have people that I have to take to Home Depot to show them how to use a lawnmower.
Okay.
And their very first thought is, great, now we get to go to IKEA and get some furniture.
Okay.
And all right, there's a dichotomy there that I'm not quite grabbing.
I'm not grabbing this at all, Allan. Let's shift gear. Okay, so let's because we teased it, and we're very notorious for teasing stuff, and then we run out of time. So let's shift gears. We're in the Halloween season.
Your house ain't haunted.
And you, Mr. Buzzkill, you like to go with your friends on these ghost hunts. And we're not kidding, folks. Allan travels in some weird circles, and they're always there. They want to believe. They want to find the ghosts and everything. And you're there, Mr. Buzzkill, to tell them, no, your house isn't haunted.
Yeah, you need an electrician,
you
not
need
an
electrician.
exorcist.
So is that it's that time of year, Allan, right? So
you and I are in the business of decay.
I guess you could
Well,
say
to
it.
be honest, we repair a lot of things.
That's
and
true.
we repair them because the fence got old.
Right.
The wood got water soaked. Something got into it. It needs to be repainted. It needs to be redone. So welcome to the science of how your house is falling down.
Okay.
And because things get loose and O-rings get old, and, if you got to jiggle the handle on the toilet, it's time for a new flapper. It might be time for a new fluid master. These are all of the little things that add up to those strange bumps and groans and things that go bump in the night.
Well, I will say this. If you have a toilet that does if the flapper's wrong, what happens is the water starts to drain, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, you get this little where the water's filling up. And if that comes through the wrong heating duct or something, the sound of it, it echoes. By the time it gets to your kid's room, it sounds like a ghost in the walls or something.
Yeah.
So,
Or that little tiny O-ring in your sink has gone bad, and now you got the knocking in the wall as the pipes jerk.
Okay. We probably ought to unpack this when we have more time, Alan, because this one is actually interesting, and maybe we could do that. Maybe next week, the sight, sounds, and smells of a decaying house
of your
or something.
decaying home.
Yeah.
Your home is slowly dying, and so are you. Happy Halloween.
Can't do any better than that. That's pretty good.
That's why we have him over there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. What a weird episode this has been. So, but weird or not, folks, it's in the can. And if you want to check it out, go to tooltalkradio.com and hear all our past shows. Alan, we didn't even plug our stuff. We'll do that next week. Anyway, we're out of time, so it's time to get out of here. On behalf of my buddy Alan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.